Today, we're talking about some things that shock people when they move to the Nashville area. So there's a lot of things that are different about living in this area than maybe wherever it is that you're moving from. There's just a lot of things that you can't really know unless you've lived here. So I've had some different conversations with clients who have moved here about just things that have surprised them about living here, things they weren't prepared for. And, they'll just say things like, I didn't realize this was a thing. And so I just wanted to talk about some of those things. I was having a conversation with someone the other day and I thought this would be really good information to share with people if they're thinking about moving to the area. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about actually 15 different things that really shock people when they move to this area if you're not from around here and you're not prepared for it. So we're going to count those down today. If this is your first time visiting my channel, my name is Jennifer Gramling. I'm a real estate agent here in Nashville and the surrounding area, and I just put out these videos trying to get you more familiar with Nashville. If you're thinking about moving here or relocating, it's going to be a great channel for you. So be sure to subscribe. And like I said, I am an agent. So if you have questions at all about moving here or relocating, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find all my contact information in the description. Call, text, email, however you want to get in touch, and we can get any and all of those relocating questions answered. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into these 15 things that might shock you when you move to the Nashville area. Okay, so number one, and this is kind of a big one, is snow days with no real snow. Okay, so yes, we do have snow days here, and sometimes it will snow in Middle Tennessee. It doesn't snow a ton. We usually get snow a couple times a year, but they do usually call off school for that. People are usually surprised by this. I see a lot of different comments in Facebook groups of people really confused and sometimes even a little bit upset, like, why are we off of school? I had no problem getting up to the Kroger today. Well, the thing behind that is that the whole county will have to shut down for one school. So while there may be some areas that are within city limits that got some snow and they got the snow plows out there, we don't have a lot of snow plow equipment here in Tennessee, and they don't do a lot of road salting and things like that, but they will sometimes clean up and plow some of those streets that are within city limits. But you have to really keep in mind that there are a lot of back roads in Tennessee, a lot of windy, hilly roads that have a lot of overhanging trees. Once cars start to travel on those, that snow gets packed down and it becomes icy. And then it just kind of sits there. It starts to melt, and then overnight it freezes again. And you just have to remember that on some of those back streets, buses have to be able to pass over those streets safely with children. Otherwise, they have to close that specific school. And if one school in the district is canceled, they're all canceled. So it's really not rare to get, a decent amount of snow with a few inches and be out of school for a week. So you will just want to be prepared for that. These things do happen. I see people really confused by this a lot of the time. So just know that, you may not be stuck in your house and you may be free to go and do whatever you want, but your kids are going to get a few extra days out of school, and they have those snow days built into the calendar. So you won't be staying late or anything like that. So just sit back, enjoy your time off, and look at it as another break. Okay, the second thing is going to be fireworks on really any and all holidays about 2 weeks leading up to and probably 2 weeks after, and then just also random times in between. So if you've watched my channel at all, you probably know I spent some time living in Colorado as well, and there's really no legal fireworks there. It's really dry. So some people when they move here are surprised at the fireworks that you can buy here just at a regular fireworks stand. They're actually pretty crazy, and there are a lot of neighborhoods that put on shows in your own neighborhood. So someone asked me where I usually go on 4th of July to watch the fireworks, and I'm like, I don't go anywhere. I stay in my own neighborhood, because your neighborhood, a lot of times, if you're in a regular neighborhood, will put on a show that, will rival any of the big shows anywhere. A lot of people pitch in, buy all the different fireworks. People love setting those off, and they do one big show. So depending on where you live, that might be an option, but anybody can go out and buy fireworks. So a lot of times you will have them going off right over your house or in your cul-de-sac on your street. And so if you have dogs that are afraid of fireworks, mine is terrified. So I just know on 4th of July, I take her out, I let her run around a little bit in the afternoon, and just be prepared that when people start setting off those fireworks, she's probably going to run to her closet and just tuck her in tight for the night. But there are frequently people who will, set off those fireworks on days leading up to and days after. So just know, don't be surprised by that. I have clients that were very surprised by that. And so now you've been told, it's all the major holidays, including usually New Year's, Labor Day, Memorial Day, really just any kind of occasion. People love setting off fireworks. So however you feel about that, it is something that happens here quite a bit. So be prepared for that. Okay, the third thing is that it's not super walkable around here. So there are areas that are walkable. If you're living more down in that urban core, in the Nashville East or West Nashville area, or that downtown center, you're going to have a lot of walkable areas. If you're in towards the downtown center of Franklin, there's some walkable areas down there, or West Haven. And then maybe right around kind of that little Nolensville Main Street area. There are some neighborhoods in Nolensville that are going to be walkable to that area or bikeable by bike path. But a lot of areas, especially in the suburbs, are not really going to be very walkable. If you want to get somewhere, it's probably going to be by car. We're going to talk a little bit about the streets later, but just, a plethora of bike paths to get down to retail spaces, especially in the suburbs, is not super common. So if you're wanting somewhere that's walkable, I have people come in and they're like, I want to be walkable to coffee shops and, retail spaces and things like that. Those are going to be some pretty specific areas, but that's not really the norm. And so just, letting us know that if you're moving to the area and those are the things you're looking for, we can usually point you to that area that's going to be the most walkable for you and kind of what you're looking for, but not a ton of planned developments with a lot of retail, restaurants, coffee shops, all of that within there. So that actually makes our job a little bit easier if you're looking for something that's really walkable to be able to get to places to hear live music, eat and grab a coffee or a drink. It limits you a little bit, but that's also kind of helpful. Sometimes too many choices is just too many. So we definitely know where those places are though, but people sometimes can get surprised that there aren't as many walkable areas as you might think just outside of that downtown urban core. Like I said, there is a lot of really great walkable neighborhoods in downtown, but outside in the suburbs, that's not usually the norm. Okay, number 4 is going to be no fences. So this is not something that I notice on a regular basis, but I have heard a lot of people mention it to me. So it must look pretty different from where some people are moving from. Everybody questions why there's no fences here around yards. I actually see lots of fences, but it must be kind of a stark contrast. I think the difference is in that some states, you've got a lot more of those wooden and vinyl privacy fences and things like that. Here you get a lot more of the black wrought iron fences in a lot of the neighborhoods. You will sometimes have the wooden privacy fences as well, but sometimes people do just leave their yards unfenced here. Sometimes they may not have pets. Sometimes they may use electric fencing for their pets and things like that. But sometimes people just want to keep it open and keep the view. So that is actually a thing here, but rest assured you can have a fence. I have yet to see a neighborhood where they didn't allow a fence. So people ask me that a lot. Are fences allowed in this neighborhood? I've never seen an HOA that did not allow a fence. Sometimes they will have restrictions on what you can build. So they may say, it has to be the wrought iron or it has to be the cross rail. They may not allow vinyl fencing, things like that. So sometimes there's restrictions around it, but I've never seen a neighborhood where you couldn't fence. So, your pet will stay safe in your yard. You will still be allowed to fence, but you may just see less fences here. And sometimes that's nice. You can leave it open, have more view and things like that. But yes, you can fence your yard. Okay, number 5 is all the elementary and middle school sports here. So that again was something different than was in Colorado. And I checked with some of my clients from other states as well. And they just said, we don't have as many sports in those other states as you have here available to you in elementary and middle school. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong or what you have in your state. But here, even in elementary and middle school, obviously the high schools have really everything. But in the middle and elementary schools, you'll still have things like football, basketball, cheerleading, volleyball, softball, baseball, track. You've even got things like pickleball clubs at some of the middle schools, things like that. So just a ton of different activities to take advantage of in middle school and elementary school that just weren't available to us in the district that we were in Colorado. So that's actually pretty cool. I've heard a lot of people come here and comment that they're really grateful that their kid doesn't necessarily have to do those club sports or the travel sports, that they can take advantage of those school sports in those lower grades because they weren't necessarily available in the state where they came from. So that I think is a really cool thing. Okay, number 6 is going to be sometimes there's no sidewalks in neighborhoods here. So I know where some people come from, it's just a given that you are going to have sidewalks in and throughout every single neighborhood. And that's just not always the case here. So it's going to depend on the different developers who are putting in neighborhoods. You will get them a lot of times in the newer neighborhoods, but I can think of a handful of them that are being built right now, even in some more popular areas in more expensive homes where there's not going to be sidewalks, street lights, things like that. Now, you will sometimes get those neighborhoods with no street lights and people are kind of perplexed by that, but it does cut down on a lot of that light pollution. So you have a lot better view of the stars. It's really, really pretty, but it does seem very dark to some people and they're not necessarily used to that, especially when you get out in the country. So that's something to think about, but not all neighborhoods are going to have sidewalks here. So if getting out and walking is important to you, just make sure that we know that if we're helping you look for a house, we can make sure that that neighborhood that you're looking at or that you have your eye on definitely does have those sidewalks, things like that, walking paths. If you want walking paths amenities, we can help you with all of those things. Not all neighborhoods are going to have those things, but it's just good to keep that in mind. Okay, number 7 is going to be the housing prices. Okay, so this is literally verbatim what my client just said to me the other day. We make really good money, but we feel poor when we're looking for a house here. So I get that. Prices here have gone up quite a bit, and some people do get sticker shock when they come here. So I do feel like there's an adjustment period when people are, going to start looking to buy a house in the Nashville area, and they realize it's a little bit more expensive than they thought it was going to be. And they may have to compromise on some of the things that they wanted. And that's just just not in a lower price point. I feel like that's in all price points. I think there's an expectation in all different price points of what you might get when you're moving to Tennessee or the Nashville area. So it's just something to keep in mind, but it has gotten a lot more expensive here. As people continue to move here, the prices do go up. There's obviously a lot of great things about being in Tennessee. And for me, that price is worth it. It's great to be here. But I do think that there is just sometimes a little bit of sticker shock that people are expecting it to be just a little bit less expensive when they come here. So there is an adjustment period into realizing that. Okay, number 8 is going to be the winding back roads. This is something that people have to get used to. Now, one of the things I mentioned a little bit earlier was that sometimes there's not streetlights everywhere, and the infrastructure wasn't built for all of these towns when people started moving in. So you're still going to have a lot of winding back roads to get to a lot of different places, and those were just old country roads. They weren't necessarily meant to be traveled by tons and tons of traffic, but at nighttime, this can be a challenge. It's definitely much darker. That's what I was talking about with the no streetlights. When you get out into the country, especially at night, and if it's raining, you'll notice that it feels a lot darker than if you're traveling somewhere that has street lights everywhere. It's really well lit. But so this takes some getting used to. If you don't want to be traveling those back roads all the time, we could try to find you a place to live that's closer in towards that city center. A lot of times you're not going to spend tons of time on those back roads, but they are out there. They do exist. You'll see that when you come here and start driving around and going to different neighborhoods. You sometimes have to get on those roads to get to those neighborhoods, but just something to be aware of. They look a little bit like this. They're super, super pretty, but you do have to pay attention when you're driving, because a lot of times there's not a lot of shoulder. There's sometimes a drop off, not as good of lighting. So it's just, you have to pay attention when you're driving here, especially on these roads. You can't just take your eyes off the road and be on your phone. You really have to focus when you're on these back roads. Okay, number 9 is going to be the seasons. So that is one thing that people really love, and they are kind of shocked by that. We do have all 4 seasons here, and people love this. You will have a full winter where it does get pretty cold. It is rather short. Already it's getting into February now, and it's going to be almost 70 tomorrow, which is super, super nice. But we have had a couple of months where it's been really cold, down into the 20s. We've had some snow, things like that. And winter's not totally over, but you will get a nice amount of winter in there. You'll get a couple of snows so that you can enjoy that. You do get that hotter summer, and then you have a beautiful spring and fall. So these are all so nice and enjoyable. And some of the best weather comes, especially in those spring and those fall months. It's not super humid. It's really temperate and really, really lovely. But you do get all 4 of those seasons so that you can enjoy all of that. People really love that. And that's one thing that comes up time and again when I ask people what they're shocked by, what they really love, and they really love those seasons. So that's really cool. Okay, number 10 is going to be a lack of good Mexican food. So I hate to say it, and I apologize to my Nashville people, that, the really good Mexican food, at least what you're used to coming from other states, it's just not really the same here. It will take some doing to find your perfect Mexican place if you're a big Mexican food person and you're coming from places like Texas, California, Colorado, places like that have really great Mexican food. It's not really going to be the same. So I wouldn't actually say that it's not good, but it's definitely not the same. So if you're looking for those same types of food, it will take a minute for you to find your spot. I actually think that there is good Mexican food here. It's not going to be the same as what you had before. So don't have that expectation that, the Mexican restaurant up the street from you is going to have that same exact food, but connect with some of the people who have moved here from other places, and they can definitely give you some suggestions based on where you move from and what, you're kind of used to. I see a lot of those conversations going on social media, like, hey, we're from this part of Texas and we really miss Mexican food. What's the best place? And you'll see tons of recommendations out there for that. So I just saw a thread the other day for New York people looking for really good pizza, and all of the suggestions on there that I was quickly writing down so that I could try them as well. But, you can find Mexican food here. Hopefully you can find some place you like. Might be harder to find the exact thing that you're used to, but I'm sure that you'll find it. Okay, number 11 is lots of churches and religion. So this one I don't notice as well, kind of like that fence thing. I grew up here, so I'm used to seeing all of these churches and, people talking about God and things like that, religion. But apparently to other people who have moved here from some of the other parts of the United States, they have told me that that was a shock to them. They're not used to seeing that many churches, people having conversations, talking about religion, being really involved and things like that. You can let me know, especially if you already live here or you moved here from somewhere else. And that's feedback that I've gotten from a couple of other of my clients. So I thought I would just put that out there and share their perspective. But I'd love to hear what your experience is like, if you've noticed that or not. But this is one thing that I've heard. There are lots of churches here. If you're into church and you want to go to church, you'll have no problem finding a place to go and worship, no matter, what your religion is. But there is a lot of that here for sure. So if that's something appealing to you, then this might be great. And if it's not, then it might not be. But they don't call it the Bible Belt for nothing. So lots of churches here for sure. Number 12 is going to be hills and greenery. So I've heard it more times than you might think. People are really surprised by how hilly it is here in Middle Tennessee. So the further west that you go towards Memphis, the flatter it's going to get. Here in Middle Tennessee, it's pretty hilly. And if you go all the way towards East Tennessee and Knoxville, it gets really hilly out that way towards those Smoky Mountains. But the hills and the green are what make it so pretty here. It is really just electric green in the summer with all of the trees and the grass. You know, it rains a lot here, so you get a lot of that foliage. It's really beautiful. But those hills tend to shock people. So, and there are different areas that are more hilly than others. You know, people who are wanting a flatter yard and flatter roads going into their neighborhoods and things, if that's something that you're looking for, you know, we can help you do that. Some people want those hills. You know, it really adds for a scenic view and making it really pretty. And especially if you're up on a hill, you've got, you know, a better view over all the landscape. So a lot of people have different preferences, but it is really beautiful. You can't beat these hills and just how green and lush and beautiful it is here. Okay, number 13 is going to be the random weather. We do have those 4 different seasons here. Within those seasons, though, you can have a season within a week. So, you know, just a few days ago here in Nashville, it was down in the 30s and really cold. Tomorrow, it's going to be 70 degrees. Once it's 70 degrees, there's a good chance it could drop down back into the 30s or 40s again the next week. You just never know. And even within the same day, your weather can have mood swings. It does get kind of crazy here. You never quite know how to plan for it, but throughout the year, you'll have that within your seasons. Like I said, we do have really great seasons, but you will get some random weather throughout that. Makes it hard to plan for. And, you know, I think people have these things in other parts of the country too, but if you don't like the weather today, just wait till later this afternoon and it's going to be completely different. That does hold true sometimes. So sometimes it can be hard to plan, but just be prepared. Sometimes the weather can change and we can have some pretty random weather here. Okay, number 14 is that people are too nice. Okay, I don't really think that's a thing, but I have heard people say that. So people are really friendly here. You will notice that people will wave when you go by. They'll talk to you. I've had people tell me that it gave them anxiety how nice people were, that people were wanting to talk to them all the time at the checkout, the cash registers and things like that. People were just making conversation and talking, and they were like, it made me really uncomfortable. Not because they dislike people, but they just weren't used to it. And depending on where you're coming from, sometimes people from the Northeast felt like, you know, maybe people wanted something from them, but genuinely, it's really just people trying to be nice and be friendly. You will get a lot of that from people here, especially people who are from here. They're just really friendly. They like to talk. So just be prepared for that. People are nice. Please wave to people when they're driving by. That's a nice thing to do here. A lot of people do that, but people are really nice. Just be prepared for it. And hey, who knows? Maybe you'll make some new friends. Okay. And last but not least, number 15 is all the music and the festivals that go on here. So one of my clients was just going on and on about how amazing she thought, and she just was not prepared for all of the live music that she could go enjoy, all of the different festivals that there are. So it doesn't matter what part of town you're in. If you're in Mount Juliet on the lake, you know, there might be a band playing at the little restaurant down on the lake. If you're in Franklin and downtown Franklin, there's lots of places for live music. Even in small towns like Nolensville, you know, they'll have a small band playing in one of the venues there. And of course, in downtown Nashville, there's tons of places to see music. And it's not always country music. There's tons of different genres, people who play. I mean, just whatever you're into. And it may not be country music. A lot of people aren't into country music when they move here, but there's lots of places to go see bands that are all different types of genres. So whatever you're interested in, whatever kind of music you want to hear, if you want to go to a big venue and you want to go to CMA Fest, or you want to go to a small little basement in a downtown dive bar, tons of places to go check out music all over town, no matter what part of town you live in. This is one of the great things about living in Nashville, is that it's a music mecca. No matter what kind of music you listen to, no matter what kind of music you like, there's always great music to be heard somewhere in Nashville. And again, lots of different festivals and things all over. So take advantage of those things. If you're coming to visit, maybe plan for that. You can go places like the Bluebird and listen to the Writers' Rounds and hear these musicians play who have written some of the most popular music that is on the radio today and of the past. And you can hear them just go play their own music and things that they're about to sell that will be on the radio. Taking advantage of things like that, just and all of those larger acts that come through, so many different opportunities. So if you're living in Nashville or you're going to come visit Nashville, take advantage of that. You know, that's not available to you in every other city. And it's one of the really cool things about living here in Nashville, is being able to listen to all that live music and take advantage of all that talent that lives here and that travels through here and plays. Okay, so that's my list of 15 things that shock people when they move to the Nashville area. If I missed something, I'm sure there are so many things that I haven't even thought of that could be on this list. If you can think of any of those things, definitely leave those in the comments. Definitely want people to have all the information when they're thinking about moving here. We don't want any surprises when you move here. So let's try to think of all of those things that people might want to hear about if they're thinking about moving here to the Nashville area. And like I said, if you are moving here, you're going to come here and explore, make sure to reach out to me. You can find all my contact information in the description. There's also a Calendly link there. If you want to book a time to talk directly with me, you can do that as well. So hit me up on there and schedule a time to talk directly with me. We can get any and all of those moving and relocating questions answered. I'm helping people just like you every single day relocate to the area, so I'm happy to help you with anything that you need. If there's another video that you want to see, be sure and drop that in the comments or shoot me a message and let me know. We'll try to get that videoed for you. We do neighborhood tours, city tours, all of that here on this channel to get you more familiar with the area. So leave those there. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next video.